Part 1. I walk into the magnificent reception hall of the Riverside Manor, and instantly regret my decision. Crystal chandeliers cast shimmering light across polished marble, and wealth murmurs through the space in hushed, reverent conversations. James's hand settles on my lower back, grounding me with the reassuring warmth of his touch. "Just breathe," he murmurs, his physician's gaze evaluating me with practiced care. "We belong here." Oliver fidgets with his bow tie, his 7-year-old patience already evaporating. "Mom, this stupid thing is strangling me." I crouch down, loosening the offending accessory with a gentle smile. "Only for a bit longer, sweetheart. Remember what we agreed. Good behavior now equals pool privileges after the party." The crowd shifts momentarily, and my heart lurches. A recognizable silhouette captures my attention, the distinctive angle of her head, how she tilts forward during laughter. 13 years have passed since I last witnessed that gesture, yet my body recalls it immediately. The bride rotates, crystal flute elevated for a celebration, and our gazes connect across the distance. My sister. The champagne glass quivers faintly in my grip, the sole visible indication of the tremors erupting within me. I hadn't connected the name Richard Martinez on the invitation. I hadn't realized. I'd presumed Emma still carried our maiden name, Thompson. Her sharp intake of breath slices through the surrounding chatter like a knife. Heads pivot. The orchestra continues, yet a sphere of quiet materializes around us, expanding across the divide. Behind her, Mother's complexion drains pale before flushing scarlet. Father advances protectively toward Emma, his imposing frame establishing a barricade between us, precisely as he's always done. "What brings you here?" Mother hisses with sufficient volume that adjacent guests rotate with inquisitive expressions. The recognizable mortification climbs my throat for a single heartbeat. I'm 23 again, standing in the downpour with a suitcase, destitute and isolated. James moves forward, his tone steady yet commanding. "My wife received an invitation. She's the founder of Medicore Solutions. We were specifically invited by the groom." The company name Medicore Solutions resonates through the cluster of medical professionals nearby. I detect murmurs, observe awareness dawning across their features. "Founder." A woman dressed in emerald silk turns toward her companion. "That's Rachel Thompson." The rain penetrates my threadbare coat as Father's declaration reverberates in my recollection. "If you're too selfish to assist at the practice, don't return." The slam of our entrance door emphasizes his statement, conclusive as a magistrate's hammer. Now I stand erect in designer clothing. The rain exists as a distant recollection. The frightened girl has vanished. In her position stands a woman who constructed something from absolute zero, who declined to disappear. Dr. Richard Martinez approaches, bewilderment furrowing his brow. His attention alternates between Emma's frozen expression and my collected demeanor. "You're acquainted with the founder of Medicore Solutions?" He poses this inquiry to my parents, then rotates toward me with mounting fascination. "We've been attempting partnership discussions for half a year. Your cardiac monitoring platform is transforming intensive care recovery." Emma attempts a smile, though it wavers at the corners. Mother and father exchange glances saturated with alarm. The whispers among wedding attendees intensify, growing more persistent. I could create a spectacle. I could reveal 13 years of deception. I could inform Richard how they broadcast to everyone that I'd abandoned university, how they'd portrayed me as unreliable while appropriating my education funds for Emma's advantage. The authority finally rests with me. Instead, I simply state, "Hello, Emma. Congratulations." The simplicity detonates like thunder. Emma recoils as though I'd screamed. James's hand returns to my back, a silent inquiry. "Remain or depart?" Oliver gazes up at me, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around us. Mom, is that lady in the white gown your friend? Richard's scrutiny sharpens. He examines the space between Emma and me, his new spouse and the stranger who evidently isn't a stranger. Emma. His voice contains confusion and preliminary notes of doubt. I thought you mentioned your sister was. His sentence dissolves, the incomplete thought suspended between us. Emma's eyes dart frantically between her new husband and her parents. For the initial time in my existence, I observe her struggling for language. And this is my wife, Emma. Richard beams, his arm encircling her waist. Yale graduate and the exceptional administrator of her family's healthcare facility in Maine. I stand several feet distant, my champagne untouched, watching my sister maneuver through the crowd with rehearsed elegance. Her diamond studs capture the illumination when she angles her head, a gesture I recognize from childhood, a tell when she's about to embellish the truth. The Thompson Medical Center has served our region for 3 decades, she declares, her voice balanced perfectly between modesty and pride. We focus on general practice with some elderly care. James touches my arm, directing my focus to the exchange developing nearby. A distinguished woman with silver hair wearing an elegant pantsuit reads my identification badge. Medicorps. Her eyes expand. You're Rachel Thompson. Your presentation at last month's healthcare summit was extraordinary. The cardiac monitoring system you've developed is revolutionizing post-operative care protocols across 4 regions now. 5 actually, I smile. We just completed implementation with Pacific General's hospital network. Across the space, Emma fumbles through a response about regenerative medicine trends. The physician questioning her exchanges a subtle glance with his associate. I believed Yale's medical program had moved away from that methodology 4 years ago, he remarks, brow creased. Emma's laugh emerges a pitch too elevated. Well, naturally these academic discussions persist. Some faculty members cling to traditional approaches longer than others. Richard's expression alters almost imperceptibly, tightening around the eyes, a slight withdrawal of his arm from her waist. He's detecting the inconsistency. Rachel. The voice behind me belongs to my father. 13 years older, yet unmistakably the same authoritative tone that once sent me scrambling to answer telephones at the practice after school while Emma took piano lessons. You need to leave, he declares, positioning himself between me and the remainder of the space. You're destroying Emma's day. James stiffens beside me, but I place a calming hand on his arm. I was invited by Richard, I respond, my voice quiet yet resolute. Perhaps you should explain why that disturbs you. Father's face reddens. The costly suit he wears cannot disguise the man underneath, a provincial physician whose influence terminates at the boundaries of his own practice. Don't pretend innocence. You appearing like this, flaunting your supposed company you claim to operate. Medicorps is hardly a claim, Thomas. James steps forward, every inch the Princeton-trained physician. The Medical Technology Conference in Seattle last month featured your daughter as the principal speaker. Her monitoring systems are deployed in 32 hospitals nationwide. A nearby attendee turns at this, clearly recognizing the company name. Across the room, my mother hovers near Emma, frantically attempting to redirect Richard's colleagues away from my direction, her hands fluttering like frightened birds. Too late. The connections are already forming throughout the room, medical professionals recognizing my name, making associations. Oliver tugs at my hand. Mom, can I have some dessert now? You promised. In a minute, sweetheart. Oliver looks past me, eyes fixed on Emma. Is that lady your sister? Does she attend Yale like you did? Thomas's face drains of color. Before he can respond, Oliver continues innocently. You showed me your old university photos. The stone buildings were beautiful. Emma has drifted closer, Richard beside her. Her face freezes at Oliver's words. Yale, Richard says, looking between us. You attended Yale too, Rachel? Class of 2016, I answer simply. Richard's colleague, a distinguished cardiologist based on his conversation, turns to Richard. You didn't mention your wife's sister was Rachel Thompson. Her work on predictive algorithms for postoperative complications is groundbreaking. Pacific Medical has reduced readmission rates by 24% using her systems. The weight of 13 years of falsehoods settles visibly on Emma's shoulders. She reaches for Richard's arm, but he steps slightly away. His attention now fully on the professional conversation surrounding me. Rain drums against my dormitory window as I stare at the bank statement, the numbers refusing to make sense. My education fund depleted, transferred to an account I don't recognize. The same day, a package arrives from Emma. Photographs of her winter break in Cabo, the trip I couldn't understand how our family could afford. I shake off the memory, focusing on the present. Richard has pulled Emma aside, their heated whispers visible from across the ballroom. His face reflects growing confusion, then disbelief, then something harder as she clutches at his sleeve. You told me you graduated from Yale, he says, voice rising just enough to carry. I went there. I've never heard your name mentioned by any of the faculty. Emma's response comes frantically. It was mostly distance learning, a special program they offered for. Yale Medicine doesn't offer distance degrees. Richard's voice has gone cold. Never has. Color drains from Emma's face as she realizes her carefully constructed life is beginning to collapse. Her eyes dart around the room, landing on mine with desperation. Richard steps back from her, straightens his tie and turns. With deliberate steps, he walks across the ballroom away from Emma, directly toward me. Behind him, Emma's pleading eyes follow, a drowning woman watching her last lifeline walk away. Richard guides me away from the crowd with a gentle hand on my elbow. His fingers tremble slightly against my skin, the only indication that the composed doctor is rattled. Let's find somewhere quieter, he says, his voice steady, but his eyes darting back to where Emma stands with my parents, their heads bent together in urgent conversation. We settle in a small alcove at the edge of the ballroom, 2 plush chairs, a small table between us. The subdued lighting casts shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of confusion etched there. I apologize for the awkwardness, he begins, straightening his bow tie. His words trail off, uncertain how to frame the chasm of questions between us. You didn't know Emma had a sister, I finish for him, keeping my voice neutral. Richard's eyes widen. She mentioned a sister once, but said you dropped out of university after a semester, that you couldn't handle the pressure and disappeared. The old wound throbs, but I don't flinch. Years of boardroom negotiations have taught me to keep my face composed even when bleeding internally. I graduated with honors, I say simply, while working 3 jobs. 3 jobs. His brow furrows. Mornings at a coffee shop, evenings at the hospital reception desk, weekends at a call center. The memories flood back, the bone-deep exhaustion, falling asleep over textbooks, the relentless push forward. I put myself through school part-time. No family support. Each word lands like a stone between us, ripples spreading outward. Richard's expression shifts from confusion to calculation, the surgeon's analytical mind reassessing everything he thought he knew. Yale, he asks, naming his alma mater. I shake my head. Community college first, then state university. I couldn't afford Yale after I discovered my education fund had been. I pause, choosing my words carefully. Reallocated to Emma's education. I see, he concludes, the pieces clicking into place. The ballroom around us blurs as memories surface. Sleeping on Katie's lumpy couch for 8 months, showering at the community center when Derek's roommate kicked me out, eating instant noodles for weeks straight to save for textbooks. The humiliation of asking professors for extensions because I couldn't stay awake after triple shifts. The hospital where I worked reception, I continue. That's where I met James. He was a resident then. I remember that night clearly. Hunched over healthcare administration textbooks during my dinner break, exhaustion pulling at my eyelids. James stopping at my desk, curious about the complex diagrams I'd sketched in the margins. "You understand Patterson's patient flow theory?" he'd asked, surprised. "It's incomplete," I'd replied without looking up. "The bottleneck isn't intake, it's documentation requirements between departments." He'd pulled up a chair and we talked until my break ended. The next day he brought coffee and questions about my ideas for streamlining patient monitoring. Within months, we were developing the prototype that would become Medicore's cornerstone product. Richard leans forward. "And Medicore. Emma mentioned you worked some office job." I can't help the small smile that touches my lips. "We started in our apartment 8 years ago. Last quarter's revenue was just under 500 million. Across the room, I spot my parents flanking Emma like sentinels. Thomas paces small circles, his face flushed with anger, while Patricia clutches Emma's arm, her knuckles white with tension. They cast frantic glances our way, whispering urgently. "They're going to try to separate us soon," I say calmly. Richard follows my gaze. They appear concerned. James approaches us, phone discreetly positioned at his side. I recognize his strategy, documenting behavior while appearing casual. A protective measure we've learned after years of navigating hostile business environments. "Everything all right here?" he asks, his physician's eyes performing a quick assessment of my well-being. "Just catching up," I reply, gratitude warming my chest. The man standing beside me, steady, brilliant, seeing me as I am, not as my family's convenient narrative. On cue, Patricia bustles toward us, her voice pitched to Carrie. "Richard, there's someone from Massachusetts General dying to meet you." Her eyes slide past me as if I'm invisible, a familiar sensation. Richard stands his ground. "In a moment, Patricia. Rachel and I are having an important conversation." My mother's smile stiffens. Always the attention seeker, our Rachel. She turns to the nearest cluster of guests. She's always been jealous of her sister's accomplishments. The statement hangs in the air like smoke, acrid and choking. Several guests shift uncomfortably, eyes darting between us. I remain seated, back straight, face composed. James's hand rests on my shoulder, a silent anchor. When the restroom door swings closed behind me 20 minutes later, I'm not surprised to find Emma already inside, reapplying mascara with trembling hands. Our eyes meet in the mirror. "Why are you doing this to me?" she demands, voice breaking on the final word. I wash my hands slowly, deliberately. "Doing what exactly?" "Ruining my wedding. Making Richard question everything." Tears streak her carefully applied makeup. "I'm not doing anything," I reply softly. "I'm simply existing." Emma slams her mascara wand onto the marble counter. "You were supposed to stay gone." For the first time, I see the fear behind her anger, the terror of a house of cards beginning to collapse. "They told everyone you were a dropout," she continues, words tumbling out like a confession. "That you couldn't handle responsibility, that you were. And yet here I am," I interrupt, "handling quite a lot." When I emerge from the restroom, my composure is intact. I return to James's side, to the warmth of his hand finding mine. Emma follows minutes later, makeup freshly applied, but something essential has shattered behind her eyes. I notice it immediately, the subtle shift in the room. Wedding guests gradually drifting toward us, drawn by genuine curiosity. A neurosurgeon discussing patient monitoring innovations with James. A hospital administrator slipping me her card. Your post-operative monitoring system reduced our complication rates by 32%, she tells me. We'd love to explore expanding its implementation. Richard stands at my elbow, attentive to the conversation, asking insightful questions about Medicore's technology. His new bride hovers at the periphery, unnamed. Father approaches, shoulders squared for battle. Richard, he interrupts loudly. This is Emma's wedding. Let's focus on her accomplishments. The silence that follows fills the room like water, drowning everything else. All eyes flick between Richard and Thomas, then to Emma, whose smile stretches thin across her face. No one speaks. No one needs to. Sometimes silence holds more truth than any words could express. I hand my half-empty champagne flute to a passing server and check my watch. We've stayed long enough. James catches my eye across the room where he's extricating himself from a conversation with an enthusiastic orthopedic surgeon. His slight nod confirms we're on the same wavelength as always. Are we leaving now? Oliver tugs at my hand, hope brightening his eyes. Swimming pool time. Yes, buddy. Just one more thing. I retrieve a small ivory-colored envelope from my clutch. Inside rests a certificate for Medicore stock. Not life-changing money, but enough to make a statement. This is who I am now, not the desperate girl they threw away. James joins us, his hand finding the small of my back. Ready. Almost. I scan the room for Richard. The poor man deserves some courtesy on his wedding day, even if his in-laws don't. We find him near the bar, watching Emma with an expression I recognize too well, the first hints of doubt creeping into what should be certainty. My sister works the room with practiced charm, but now I notice how she flinches slightly when medical terms enter the conversation, how quickly she redirects. We're heading out, I tell Richard, offering the envelope. Congratulations again. He takes it with genuine warmth. Thank you for coming, especially considering. His eyes drift toward my parents who hover nearby like vultures circling wounded prey. I appreciate the invitation, I mean it. Closing this chapter matters more than I realized. Richard leans closer, voice dropping. I'd like to visit Medicore sometime. Professionally. Our eyes meet, understanding passing between us without words. He knows maybe not everything but enough. My assistant will set it up. I offer my business card, aware of Emma watching us, her smile cracking at the edges like old porcelain. Mother glides toward us, social armor firmly in place. Rachel was always so driven, she tells a nearby guest with calculated lightness. Of course, she had advantages we couldn't provide Emma. The blatant reversal of truth would have wounded me once. Now it's almost comical. What advantages were those, Mrs. Thompson? James asks innocently. The 3 jobs while putting herself through night school? Or sleeping on friends' couches after you took her tuition money? Mother's face hardens, but a cluster of Richard's colleagues has drifted within earshot. She retreats a step, recalculating. Oliver looks up at me, confusion clouding his face. Aren't those people your family, Mom? The question silences everyone within hearing distance. Simple, direct, unintentionally devastating. I kneel to his level. They're relatives, buddy. Family is different. Father chooses this moment to approach, puffing up his chest like he did when I was young and easily intimidated. You can't just waltz back into our lives. And I'm not interested in walking back into anything. My voice cuts through his bluster with quiet finality. I'm not here to expose you or reconcile with you. I built my own life, which is exactly what you forced me to do when you showed me the door. The image flashes unbidden, rain soaking through my jacket, the weight of my suitcase, the terrifying freedom of having nothing left to lose. Behind me, Oliver fidgets with his bow tie again. James rests his hand on our son's shoulder, studying him the way he studied me all those years ago when I thought I'd drown. Thank you, I tell my parents, causing them to blink in confusion. Thank you for not giving me a chance. You made me build my own. Mother's face contorts between rage and social preservation. For once, she finds no words. I take Oliver's hand. James falls into step beside us as we make our exit. Unhurried, dignified, complete. No dramatic declarations, no tearful scenes. Just the quiet power of walking away whole. Whispers follow us like gentle rain. But unlike that night 13 years ago, they don't touch me. I've built an umbrella of accomplishment that shields me from their storms. In the lobby, Oliver breaks free and spins with childish delight. Pool time. 10 minutes to change and I'll meet you there, James tells him, tousling his hair. As we cross toward the elevators, I catch our reflection in the polished marble wall. A family of 3, solid and connected. Behind us, through the ballroom doors, I glimpse Richard watching our departure, then turning back to his new bride with new questions in his eyes. Some weddings mark beginnings. This one marks an ending. The final release of expectations I never needed to fulfill, approval I no longer seek, and pain I refuse to carry forward. Oliver punches the elevator button with enthusiastic determination. Up we go. Yes, I smile. Up we go indeed. Sunlight angles through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, casting long shadows across the polished concrete floors. 2 months have passed since Emma's wedding, but the memory still lurks in corners of my mind like a half-forgotten dream. I scan the partnership proposal from Boston Memorial, a contract worth 8 figures sprawled across my desk. Medicore's patient monitoring system reduced post-surgical complications by 39% in their trial run. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't play favorites. My assistant Victoria's voice crackles through the intercom. Dr. Richard Martinez is here to see you. My pen stills against paper. I hadn't spoken to my sister's husband since that night. Send him in. Richard enters like a man carrying invisible weight. His shoulders curl forward, suit jacket wrinkled at the elbows. Dark circles shadow his eyes. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. He stands awkwardly until I gesture toward the chair opposite my desk. Coffee. Offer. He shakes his head. I can't stay long. Wait. Experience has taught me the power of silence. I've consulted with a lawyer about annulment possibilities. The words tumble out like stones. Everything Emma told me was fabricated. She never attended Yale. She never managed your parents' clinic. She's the receptionist. I absorbed this without surprise. The lies were always there, waiting for someone to notice. I'm sorry to hear that, I say, and mean it. Your parents made her the face of their practice while they... His voice trails off as he runs a hand through disheveled hair. The billing practices at their clinic. They've been charging Medicare for procedures never performed, using outdated codes deliberately. Emma helped them do it. The revelation lands like a slap, not because it's shocking, but because it confirms suspicions I buried years ago. I didn't mean to drag you back into this, Richard continues. But when I started investigating Emma's background, I found patterns, discrepancies. Your name kept appearing in old clinic records, then vanishing completely 13 years ago. The skyline beyond my window shimmers in summer heat. I built this view from nothing while they built their lives on fabrications. They used my education fund for Emma, I say simply. When I confronted them, they told me I wasn't Yale material anyway. Richard winces. The irony is I never wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to improve medical systems, make them more efficient, more accurate. You've done that, Richard says, glancing around my office. Medicore is transforming post-surgical care across the country. A silence stretches between us, comfortable in its honesty. The clinic is being investigated, he finally says. I submitted anonymous information to the proper authorities after discovering the extent of the fraud. They've been doing this for nearly 17 years. 17 years. Beginning right around the time I left for college. My phone buzzes with a text from James. Picking up Oliver early. Aquarium Day. Join us. A warmth spreads through my chest. This is my real family now. What will you do? Ask Richard. He straightens his shoulders. File for annulment. Cooperate with investigators. Start over. He hesitates. I came to apologize for my unwitting role in reconnecting you with your past, and to ask, do you plan to get involved in the investigation? The question hangs between us, heavy with implication. I could destroy them completely. One phone call from the CEO of Medicorp to the Medicare fraud investigators would accelerate everything. No, I say finally. I built my life separate from theirs. I intend to keep it that way. Relief washes across his face. Thank you for seeing me. After Richard leaves, I stand at my window watching traffic flow 42 stories below. My phone vibrates with a voicemail notification. Emma's number. 4th this week. James calls as I'm gathering my things to meet them at the aquarium. You sound tired, he says. Richard Martinez came to see me. The family clinic is under investigation for Medicare fraud. Oz. Are you okay? Yes. The answer surprises me with its truth. Are you going to get involved? I watch a red-tailed hawk circle the skyscrapers, riding thermals with effortless grace. I was thinking about what you said last week, about how my success is already their greatest punishment. I stand by that, James says. But it's your choice. My computer chimes with an incoming email. An attorney representing the Medicare Fraud Investigation Division requesting information about my time at Thompson Family Practice. Attached are documents requiring my testimony. They want me to testify, I tell James. What will you do? I consider the question. Part of me wants to delete the email, refuse the request, let whatever happens to them happen without my fingerprints anywhere near it. Another part remembers patients who trusted them, elderly men and women whose Medicare benefits were stolen. I'll forward them copies of the clinic's original records from when I worked there, I decide. Nothing more, nothing less. Just the facts. I'm proud of you, James says. My phone buzzes again. Another voicemail from Emma. Her 4th today. The first one begged for money. The second threatened to tell Oliver the truth about his mother. I don't need to hear the 4th. I press delete without listening. The small action surprisingly final. Oliver wants to see the new penguin exhibit, James says. His voice a welcome anchor to my real life. Tell him I'm on my way. I gather my bag, pausing at the door to look back at my office. The Boston Memorial contract waits on my desk. Another hospital ready to implement the system I built from nothing but determination and long nights. I close the door behind me, leaving Emma's voicemail in digital oblivion where it belongs. Some debts can never be repaid. Some wounds never fully heal. But I've learned that moving forward doesn't require forgiveness. Sometimes it just requires letting go. The lavender blossoms bend toward sunlight. I pinch back another spent bloom, adding it to the collection in my palm. 8 months have passed since the wedding. 8 months of breathing easier, like finally stepping out of shoes that never quite fit. Oliver races between the raised beds, his superhero cape fluttering behind him. Mom, can I water the tomatoes? Start with the peppers, I tell him, pointing to the drooping leaves. They're thirsty today. He grabs his small watering can, tongue poking out the corner of his mouth as he concentrates on not spilling. The mid-June sun warms my shoulders through my t-shirt. No designer labels here, just comfort in my own space. James appears at the patio door. 3 glasses of lemonade balanced on a tray. Reinforcements, he calls, descending the steps into our modest garden. His physician's hands, the same ones that perform delicate cardiac procedures, now pass lemonade to our son with exaggerated ceremony. "Thank you, good sir," Oliver responds with a wobbly bow that nearly spills his drink. James's eyes meet mine over Oliver's head. The unspoken conversation passes between us. This is what matters. This garden, this boy, this life we built from nothing but determination and truth. "The regional hospital board approved the patient monitoring system," James says casually, though we both know what this means. "The sixth major hospital chain to adopt Medicore's technology this year alone. Thousands more patients who will recover safely because of what we created." "That's number 6, Oliver announces proudly, counting on his fingers. "Mom's helping all the sick people get better faster." I ruffle his hair, amazed at how he absorbs everything. "That's the idea, buddy." The doorbell chimes from inside. James raises an eyebrow. "Expecting something?" "FedEx probably. Those component samples from Germany." But when James returns, his expression has shifted. He holds a certified letter, the return address visible even from where I stand. Emma Thompson Martinez. My stomach tightens, the familiar knot I thought I'd finally untangled. "I'll be in my office." The envelope sits on my desk for 19 minutes while I finish reviewing quarterly projections. James leans against the doorframe. Silent support. When I finally slide it open, a single sheet of cream-colored stationery slides out, covered in Emma's careful handwriting. "Rachel, the clinic closed last month. Not because of anything you did, because of everything Mom and Dad did. The investigation found billing irregularities going back 17 years. Richard left me. He said he couldn't build a life with someone he couldn't trust. He was right. I'm not writing to ask for money. I know better now. I'm writing because I need to tell you that you were never the problem. I was raised to believe your intelligence threatened mine. Your independence undermined my security. I believed them when they said cutting you off was necessary. I was wrong. They were wrong. And I'm sorry. Emma." James doesn't ask what it says. He waits until I fold the letter and place it back in its envelope. "What will you do?" he asks. "Nothing dramatic," I answer, turning to my computer. I open a document, type for several minutes, then print a single page. I slide it into a Medicore envelope with the letter I've written. 2 weeks later, I stand at the edge of the American Healthcare Innovation Conference in Denver, watching my team demonstrate our latest innovations to a crowd of healthcare professionals. The Medicore booth draws attention, our reputation preceding us now. Flash of movement catches my eye. Someone in pale blue scrubs near the education pavilion. Emma, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, listens intently to a speaker discussing entry-level medical coding certification. Our eyes meet across the crowded exhibition hall. No gasps this time, no drama, just quiet recognition. She holds the Medicore internship application I sent her, clutched like a lifeline. I offer a small nod, not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. She returns it, eyes bright with something that might be determination. We don't approach each other. Some relationships are completed, not continued. That evening, I finalize the paperwork for the Thompson First-Generation Medical Scholarship. Not named for my parents, but reclaiming my birth name for something better. 25 students without family support will receive full tuition and mentorship next fall. Back home, I kneel in our garden again, digging small holes for new seedlings. Oliver helps, his small hands patting soil around tender roots. Some plants don't grow well next to others, I explain, showing him how to space the seedlings. They need their own space to thrive. Like people? He asks, surprisingly perceptive. Smart boy, I whisper, kissing his forehead. Yes, like people. The sun slants golden across our yard. Through the kitchen window, I see James preparing dinner, moving easily through the space we've created together. I press another seed into the dark earth, covering it gently. Some roots you're given, others you get to choose.